Hi, this is Layla Badajan. I am going to be talking about my evaluation of restorative practice. Restorative practice is a way of disciplining that is not reactive but proactive. It encourages students to take responsibility for their actions, to be able to see how their actions affect others, and then have them come up with ways to rectify it. So rather than a student doing something inappropriate, and as an educator, normally we give them a detention or we suspend them or we call home. It's a way to really put it back in the hands of the student to figure out why they did what they did, who it affected, and how they could rectify the wrong that they've done. So it really helps them to understand how they are part of a school community and how their actions really do affect other people instead of, like I said before, just a student starting a food fight at lunch and they're suspended, which happens all the time. However, it's really not good practice because the student knows they did something wrong, obviously, but then they're suspended from school, so they're missing valuable instruction time. And really, the only thing they're learning is that they shouldn't have a food fight. With restorative practices, a student will have a food fight in the kitchen, in the cafeteria, and they will be pulled aside and spoken to, and we'll figure out what made them act the way they did. They will explore who their actions hurt. For example, now the lunch staff has to spend extra time cleaning up, or the students had less recess time because the noontime aides had to focus on the student's behavior, and then they will come up with a solution. So, for example, a solution to something like that might be that they come in during their lunch period for the next week and they're in charge of helping the staff clean up after the lunches. So they can really understand how their actions have a direct impact on other people. If you look at my Padlet, you can see there's a YouTube example of restorative practice. There's a Word document that has some examples of restorative practice with what the infraction was, how you can be proactive or reactive. The reason that I decided to evaluate this program is because my school got a new principal and assistant principal this year, and one of the things that I really liked about them when they first introduced themselves was that they were fully behind this thought process of restorative practice, that they really wanted to make that a focus of this year because the climate in our school is dreadful. We have students being suspended on a daily basis in astronomical numbers, and research has shown that that really isn't an effective way to control the climate and behavior in the school. Additionally, if you look at my Padlet, you'll also see the evaluation matrix that I plan to use, the logic model, who the stakeholders are. Some of the key questions that I want to look at are, first and foremost, is it working? Are these incidences and behaviors decreasing? Is the number of in-school, out-of-school suspension and detentions decreasing? I also want to know if the staff feels like they are adequately trained to provide restorative practices. I want to find out what the parents think about restorative practices and if the students understand what that process is and why we are doing it. In order to find out all of these things, I decided that I would survey the students, I would survey the staff, I would survey the parents, as well as look at the data collected by our climate manager, who, for all intents and purposes, is a dean of students and in charge of things like behavior. I planned on doing a survey through Google Forms for the staff. It would be anonymous. It would consist of both multiple choice and short answer questions. I chose to do it this way because I figured if they could do it from home, they would be more likely to do it if they knew that it was anonymous and they could express their feelings more freely, they would be more willing to do it. The students, I decided that I would give a student survey, and you can see the sample survey on my Padlet, and it would be given whole group with the teacher reading the questions and giving adequate time for the students to answer. The reason that I chose to do this was that way, if it was too small of a group, I felt the students would be looking to the teacher to see how they should answer, and I didn't want that. I wanted the most honest answers that I could get from the kids. Some of the challenges I anticipate and the concerns that I have is that there's a very high probability that for my school this year, this program will not be a success. And that is not because of restorative practice itself, but it's because the teachers and staff at my school have not been trained at it. Unfortunately, the principal and assistant principal talked a lot about it, but then kind of left it on the table and never really talked to the staff about what it looked like and how to implement it. So for this reason, I'm also going to be looking at a school with similar demographics near me that has been using restorative practices for the last few years and see if the reason that it's not working in my school is that it's the teachers and staff and students aren't trained in it, or if the program itself is flawed. So I hope you enjoy looking at my Padlet, and I look forward to any questions you may have.